Welcome back to the Loco Experience Podcast. I'm here today with Sjeanne Cawdry, and she is the director and founder of the Center of Liberation, which I love to hear. And she's a business advisor and quantum reinvention strategist.
Yeah, well said.
And she's got a fun accent because you are from...
South Africa,
Yay!
Johannesburg.
Awesome. Let's start out with Johannesburg.
Yes.
Can we? How long has it been since you've lived in South Africa?
Lived in America or lived in South
Lived
Africa?
in South Africa.
Oh, I have. I was born and raised there, and so I lived there for 51 years before packing up and heading
Coming here?
Coming here, yes.
Oh, really?
So it's all very recent.
So we're your first stop.
You're my first stop. I've traveled to various parts of the world, which
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed.
Oh, that's really
but
neat.
America is, I don't think it's too common to pack up too many times and move country. Once is good for me.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And how did you land in Fort Collins, if I may?
Fort Collins. So my wife is originally American.
Okay.
So Dana, and so we met through COVID, and a beautiful little online romance that translated into moving continents.
Oh, wow.
So she spent some time with me in South Africa, Johannesburg. So she's got a good taste of that for
Yeah.
the last for a good few years, and it was time for me to come and experience her country.
Oh, okay.
And
was she here, or did you move
No,
somewhere?
California. So before we arrived, very intuitively, I just kept saying, from my perspective, I've never been here, I never set foot in Colorado. I'd been to California and America, and I was just intuitively, it feels like Colorado is going to be home. It just feels like Colorado is going to be home. And
Okay.
so when we arrived, we spent some time traveling and came to visit Colorado. I fell in love. She fell in love with it. And
Colorado's one thing, but then tell me
Fort
more
Collins.
about Fort Collins. Yeah,
So-
how did was there a list of finalists in Colorado?
So Dana is a director of one of the directors at Norco Volleyball, and so she had a position opened up for volleyball directorship. So
the job kind of helped choose the location.
job to help choose the location. Yeah.
And you have a really interesting career in finance. Is a lot of your
Yes.
background, but especially around like strategy and money systems and kind of the deeper like risk analysis stuff. It feels like.
Yes. So before leaving South Africa, I was in corporate investment banking, one of the niche corporate investment banks in South Africa, in fact, on the African continent, and very well established and well known, and spent over a decade.
So like
15
comparable
years.
to our JP Morgan or whatever, all those
We were
big
always in
firms.
conversation with JP Morgan and the
selling
likes
them portions
to,
of assets. And things when you-
to understanding what
Yeah.
they're doing and what we should be doing. And so, I invested much of my time in the banking industry, and it's really, really fascinating. And also just to watch really, the onset of something like cryptocurrency, digital assets, for example, and watch how this sort of the landscape of finances it's not changed altogether, but what's coming online and what's driving it, and
it's really I don't know what the clip is, but Trump has definitely like increased like the
Yes.
strategic investment in Bitcoins and some other stuff and Trump coins too, right?
Trump coins. Well,
your meme
the
coins
meme
here.
coins. So definitely. So I think you're seeing that globally as well. This kind of adoption process now, which we were expecting when, we sort of first started exploring it. And so interesting to see, what happens in America. We know happens around the world, and so having a Trump administration promoting and being on board with the strategic reserve, not just Bitcoin.
Well, it kind of acknowledges the
legitimizes.
legitimizes it, and it's almost like I would say the competition for what is money right now is probably like, the U.S. dollar certainly has a place in that.
Yes.
Bitcoins, gold, and then probably like oil or energy
Commodities.
resources in general,
Ener-
food,
yeah.
commodities as well,
Yeah.
but especially like you need energy to make food,
Absolutely.
right, and
Yeah.
move it around and stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, if you just look at, for example, who makes up the administration from, you've got obviously the likes of Musk, who's originally from South Africa.
Sure.
In fact, the same school, with different years that we were in.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, it's all energy based, right? So
Right.
very strong tech orientated, let's say, administration, which is interesting. Energy
Yeah, yeah,
heavy.
and it's all energy,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
data centers cost a fortune, and a Grok search or a Chat GPT search costs 100 times as much as a Google
yeah.
one does,
So
energy-wise.
I always say, look where the smart money's investing, or what's the smart money doing, and follow the smart money. So I'm curious, and again, a little bit of who I am is I'm a bit of a futurist and forward thinker. So I was, dabbling in the world of Bitcoin and crypto in 2017 where I first got started and just became really immersed in it. We looked at providing that offerings to our clients.
Sure.
So I really kind of got immersed in
Had to kind of
it,
get expert status if you're going to
and
talk
yeah, and like,
shop.
what does it mean? Like, what is driving this, and etc. So it's been very interesting to watch the progression now. That's 8 years later, and sort
Mm.
of strategic reserves and Trump coins and meme coins and
Right. Well,
uh,
and for businesses and industries, whether it's agriculture or mining or finance, like what is the impact of not just those different currencies and stuff, but also technology in general? How does AI affect the operating model? How many employees do we need if we've got a
100%.
well-implemented AI policy? Or
Definitely.
yeah,
Big changes. And that's one of the sort of future trends, which it's not even future trend. It's here now. It has
it's
already
already nudging
disrupted.
you. Yeah,
Yeah. It's not even nudging. I think if
pounding.
you really sort of lift the carpet, I think people would get quite significantly shaken if they're not sort of touching it in some way
Hmm.
to see I want to say the power. And look, anything that I comment on, there's always different sides of the story,
Sure.
which I can appreciate. When things are taken, anything can be used incorrectly, and so hopefully the likes of AI is used proactively.
In a
But
positive way, good for the future of humanity, right?
uh,
Well, and so I guess that's where that quantum reinvention is. Like
correct.
we're moving into this quantum world, and we haven't even talked about quantum computing yet.
No, no, and
And I'm guessing that's something you're looking into now.
yeah, starting to sort of become more familiar with it. But the idea of quantum reinvention strategist, and I know I often get asked this question, is very much, with the likes of AI, and if you had to look at like the scarce intelligence of your logical thinking,
Sure,
and how that's been disseminated effectively into what I call abundant intelligence, because now you've got
sure.
a lot of humanity's
Yeah,
intelligence is going into a database or databases accessible to all. It means, what effectively do you get paid for going forward? What
yeah.
effectively, which, we, we, we are taken into an organization, or we offer services and products according to the scarce knowledge, the scarce intelligence that we bring, and the
Mm,
service offerings, and etc. And so that drives productivity. With that sort of being, let's say, democratized into
right.
sort of open source, that leaves the question like,
Huh.
what is now valuable, and what will I be paid for going forward? And a question not that I sit with, and many others, but something that should be really considered. And so, as one of the implications of, as I say, I'm a bit of a forward thinker, and so I think in paradigms, and what does this mean in terms of a new paradigm. For me, one of the things that will now transpire, that I think it is driving, is greater levels of creativity. And so the quantum is like, how do you access new information? How does that come about? From my perspective and my beliefs, it's like you access that from the universal source, the energy around you,
Yeah, yeah.
the
Yeah, some
quantum.
people like you don't think of ideas. Ideas come and find you, kind of.
Exactly, ideas come and find you. And so opening up your intelligence to new information is going to come through the energy that surrounds us, the universe that surrounds us. And so learning how to really master and powerfully create, and create like consciously and deliberately directing your thoughts, hence is the quantum reinvention.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah,
Well, and ultimately, most things that we really need still require, energy to make it happen, right? Like food,
absolutely,
the building of shelter, uh, entertainment, even.
100%.
So I was thinking earlier that I think it was the Colt pistol revolver that was called the Great Equalizer of Men. And I wonder is AI kind of an equalizer of people, or is it an unequalizer more depending on whether you have access to it, which I guess was kind of the notion with being able to carry a pistol. But in the Wild West, you either didn't or you did, right? And I guess that's kind of the same here. Are you carrying AI around in your holster, or are you not? And which size is your AI?
Well, of course, in South Africa we've got a different application
Certainly, your culture
of
is nothing like the same.
but similar application. And I was
Are
just kind
guns
of
illegal in South Africa?
they are illegal. You can have a what do you call
Like a
it, like
hunting gun
a
or something?
certificate or whatever you call it, like that's regulated, but it's not really,
Rare.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah.
but there's plenty of guns in South Africa, so
They're not legal, but there's plenty of them anyway.
exactly,
Fair.
exactly.
Only the bad guys have guns, though.
Oh, of course, of course.
Mostly.
No, not no.
Okay.
There's
So there's plenty of registered legal
yeah,
weapons
yeah.
as
There's
well.
plenty of registered legal weapons, but it's common,
Fair. Okay.
common. Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, I digress. But back to the question:
Yes.
is it an equalizer of men and women, or is it an unequalizer? This tool.
I think there's going to be versions of both those truths that play out, and multiple versions. Because let's say if people have access to the internet, you can have access to again, something like AI, which gives you access. You can go and engage and ask for a PhD written paper
Right.
or thesis to be written for your dissertation if you ask the right question. So, that's going to give you so much more information. So AI can give you so much more information and resourcefulness that previously I wouldn't have even thought to. So when I
Sure.
engage in it, it opens up my own creative centers in the context of my right brain, because I'm engaging with it. It is sort of provoking and providing me with other ways to think about things in ways that I just wouldn't have even thought. And so then that takes me down another rabbit hole, and I'm engaging it in that rabbit hole. And so I'm learning the learning pathway of information that I wouldn't have even thought to engage in. I'm now engaging in
Yeah.
and getting equipped. So in that way, there's just so much that I can personally do with it. And then at the same time, if you don't have access to it, you're disadvantaged. If you don't, it's like the financial system.
Right. The best you can hope for is to be the brute strength for somebody that needs human labor.
Exactly,
Almost.
exactly. And so, and
Or yeah, I suppose.
I think
Or I suppose nurses and things like that. There's going to be human touch
the human
type of
we're never
careers that are hard to
100%.
replace.
I'm very clear that AI is incepted from human beings first and foremost.
Sure.
So we created it, and going forward, there'll always be the human, always be the human person engaging in AI, and AI cannot contextually think. So what it leads to is, okay, logical left brain, solution orientated, anything where pattern recognition can be pretty easily identified because it's primarily what, one of the sources that it operates on. What it can't do is, if you're asking it prompts, it's going to answer in the domains of those prompts, but it can't contextually bring things together. So
Yeah.
what it
Like
stimulates,
when I do you know what this is like, and it's totally different thing. Even like the Colt versus the AI.
100%. So it can't.
Sorry to interrupt
Yeah,
you.
no. So it can't connect the dots. So it will help stimulate a lot of new thoughts that then the human is going to then be collecting the dots of, oh, okay, this is a potential solution. So I think it's also going to promote a lot of solutioning as opposed to solving problems as such. I mean, it solves
Yeah.
problems, but you start to realize that, like there's just so many solutions out there, so many, just opportunities.
Well,
to
what's
solution.
interesting is, I know there's a lot of different paid platforms for AI and stuff, but it takes a lot of energy to spin
Yes.
all these things and all these queries, and when you have it paint you a picture, it's even more energy, and it's really not priced at consumption right now. Like gasoline, we got to pay per gallon.
Correct.
AI, you can have that thing be chewing on problems all day long for no good reason
100%.
if you wanted to, and it would
Yeah.
just be like you're just burning coal.
Yeah, yeah. And, it's like anything. You can go down rabbit holes. And again, they're still building it out. But the rate and pace at which it's being built, I would say, the idea of artificial superintelligence is probably already here. They're sort of saying in 2 or 3 years' time, it's probably less because AI doubles its intelligence roughly every 5 to 6 months, and you can shorten that time. So I think currently, the last time I checked these values, this was the end of last year, so may well have changed. The intelligence of AI was at, I think it was like 152, which is roughly Elon Musk.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think Albert Einstein is about 165 roughly. So we would have surpassed those or started to
Certainly.
surpass those.
Yeah.
And that, if you had to think, then that doubles in 6 months, doubles in 6 months, doubles in 6 months. You know,
Pretty soon it's
we're looking
800.
at like 1,000. I
Yeah.
think it was in end of 2026,
Oh,
2027.
wow, that soon.
Like we can't even comprehend.
Yeah.
We can't comprehend that intelligence. So it does make you confront your own sense of value. And what, when I look at this and, women's wealth transfers, and there's different wealth transfers busy happening, you're looking at AI, digital assets. And so, really working with people to say, okay, how do you position yourselves? What will be valuable of your business or what you're offering in the future? And what will become available so that you can obviously capture the opportunities,
Create more
the
value, kind
profitability,
of,
and
ultimately.
what is the new value. And I think what we're finding in the system, what I'm discovering in the system, and this has probably been for the last 6 months or so, I say to people, like, the system is stuck systemically. So in other words, people are not wanting to spend money. They're not sure what direction to go in. They're not sure what choices to make. Corporates are like grappling to, what strategies do we follow? And then entrepreneurs are also, they're saying, like, I just don't know. I just don't know. Like, and like, I'm just confused. So
Right.
I call it like un-F your, I don't know how y'all were swearing on this channel. So
Well,
that,
you can say all the fucking bad
yeah,
words you want. Yeah, it's fine.
unfuck your confusion. So I work with clients to like
Okay.
unfuck their
Oh,
confusion
yeah.
because there's so much confusion and so much stuckness.
Yeah. My dad used to say, I know sometimes you don't feel like you have enough information to make a decision, but make a decision.
Make a decision. Yeah.
Do it. And if you find out it's the wrong decision, then
100%.
change your mind,
Exactly.
but don't stand
Go.
there
You
with
gotta.
your
You
thumb
can't.
up your butt. Yeah.
Because, and I think what's driving that, what I've come to kind of conclude, is that because these converging trends have already hit multiple of them, and I'm only talking about 3 or 4.
Yeah.
But there's
Yeah.
multiple. Energy
Well,
be
we've
one
got,
of them.
yeah, energy and
Climate.
global trade,
100%.
tariffs.
Yeah, and
I heard some
absolutely.
statistics on how many ships are like either coming or going with 1/3 or 1/2 empty and things like that, and that
Yeah.
just doesn't happen, right?
No, 100%. I mean, it's, so the world is changed. And I think for so many decades we've been talking around change is coming, change is coming. And no, the world has changed. Like, it's changed. And significantly because of all these things coming in, converging together at once. We haven't seen this before. We've seen one thing and then another thing. And, the onset of the internet or the onset of manufacturing or the information technology. But you've got these massive mega trends converging at once. They've already converged. They've caused change. And now you're getting like more of the mass adoption. And so where that lands me is why the system is stuck and confused is because we are now in new realities. We are now on new paradigms.
We're already on a new
We're already
reality.
on them. And so the nature of
First, we need to survey the landscape a little bit.
Yeah, so the nature of the problems have changed, but people and clients don't know how their problems have changed.
Yeah.
And so they're trying to figure that out, and no one's figured out that the nature of the problems have changed. And actually, well, there's going to be new problems, and in fact, not even problems, because problems create industries. Well, and why I use, and I had a great conversation with someone this morning, well, before I arrived here, and he was just saying how it's like, there are, problems are an illusion created in your mind if you believe in the quantum. And so, it's really about solutions. And so you can dismantle your problems, which are a mindset and a particular context. And when you're creating with the
Right.
quantum, you're collapsing problems and you are creating.
Well, but yeah, the problems kind of have to be acknowledged to monetize the solutions, though, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
what companies do for the most part is monetize a solution for somebody's problem.
100%. And that's why I say one of the big paradigm shifts that's already happened is that the more and more people become conscious, and when you're more conscious, your ability, I mean, we could probably ask your audience, and if they
When
were
you say
sitting-
conscious, yeah, what do you mean by that?
just a greater level of awareness, so an opening up to greater levels of understanding of we're never going to fully understand the human experience, but it's just
Right.
greater levels of awareness of your own divine nature, and so consciousness of your own divine true nature expressed through the human experience as I'm going to call it a spiritual orientation.
Okay.
a level of consciousness, and then with that, various levels of awareness. And so you can be, for example, the classic example was COVID drove health consciousness. So
Oh,
people
sure.
have different levels of awareness now
Yep. Yep.
around, it drove the Great Resignation, and in part that was driven by because I want a greater sense of purpose and meaning. So you can
Yep.
say
Yep.
consciousness, in summary, is a very easy way of saying, hey, I want to give, have greater
Kind of
sense of
instead of
purpose
just
and
a
contribution.
non-player character, as they say on the
100%.
Twitter, actually having intentional
Intentional,
actions and
you know,
awareness of reactions and like
100,
a intentional
exactly,
navigation of life instead of just I go to work starting when I'm 20 and then I retire when I'm
100%.
62 and I have a few kids and do stuff. But
And that's the way it is. Now there's this, if you believe your thoughts create your reality, that's being conscious. Yeah.
okay,
So, and constantly just waking up. You can call it waking up. You can call it, oh, I'm becoming aware of this. Oh, I'm becoming aware of like energy. And
right. Well, and what's cool and partly AI powered is anytime I want to, I can push the little grok button and be like, "Can you tell me more about the War of 1812? What are some of the controversies around how that started for
hun-
specifically?" And I can
100%.
just know, and in the
100%.
and I can say, give it to me in 2 paragraphs or 10 paragraphs or whatever I want.
Now, you see, and that's a great example because there, for example, let's say you wanted to take that really seriously, you would have gone to, a course, a university, sit and listen to someone who's disseminating that knowledge.
Sure.
That's why I say the knowledge dissemination, just like that, is
Right.
disseminated.
Well, and like I've been thinking about like business books and like AI has read every business book ever written, and for the most part, a lot of them are resonant for the last 60 years. There's some new stuff here and there. It starts with why, but mostly it's just kind of a recycling through of kind of a lot of the ideas we've been talking about in the past and freshening of them, perhaps. But there isn't necessarily new stuff that comes from that. Then is it just a dulling down and an averaging of ideas? And is like a really good business book that's focused, is that going to be better than an AI created tool on the same specific topic? I don't know. I'm not sure.
There
Does it get
is,
blurry? Does
it,
does the reality of the AI just get blurred out, or the brilliance of the humans?
I would hope that the brilliance, and again, it's going to, the brilliance of, this is what I would hope for. Because, like I say, I think it's going to really stimulate and encourage people to think, number one, deeply about things. So I believe, I feel my senses. And again, there is unknown and uncertainty because we haven't been in this territory. And if we're only just kind of stepping into new paradigms, we don't know the paradigms yet. So there would be a lot of uncertainty. The ability of humans to think deeply about topics, and I think you're going to start seeing what we used to call in the corporate space T-type employees. And T-type employees, you had like, where the T goes across, you have a more narrowed scope of in-depth skill set, in-depth capability. So you go very deep into a topic
Yep.
as the T drops down, but you very narrowed in your sphere of specialization. So I feel like there's going to be a more deepening into the specialization and truly exploring the truth about a particular topic, or the truth, and digging and digging and digging to expand and grow on it. And so I think there's definitely opportunity for, I'd say, more for humans to definitely play a part in a more brilliance coming through. I think, and when I say, for example, creativity, that's exactly what I mean, to come into a greater sense of knowing about the truth of who you are and your own brilliance and your ability to be brilliant. Should you wish to engage with a tool, AI is just a tool. How you drive it, how you shape it, the questions, there's a huge,
Sure.
huge impact on what it can deliver. And again, it's never going to be able to contextually connect the dots. It's never going to be able to have human connection. It's never going to have a soul or conscious. It's going to have, and this is up for discussion, but versions of consciousness. And so when humans are in a room together and sitting around having a conversation like this, like our energies and our thought waves and our thought processes are feeding off each other, and so it's like escalating.
Yeah. Yeah. It
You know,
multiplies with more people if it's
and the
structured
multiply
well.
effect. And so
I want to
yeah.
challenge that notion of. I've almost been feeling like corporations have been looking for increased specialization from their employees, kind of to employees' detriments. Because like even right now, like software engineers, people that write code and stuff, the last 10 years have had it going great because they've been in super high demand, short enough supply. We're like trying to open up the valves for Indian programmers and stuff so we can do this stuff. And now AI is like a really fast programmer, and you need probably. I'm guessing that the job market is not good. So now all these people that specialize in software programming are having a harder time unless they're putting that tool in the belt. And then what I was looking on my phone for was a book I read, listened to a couple years ago, Range by David Epstein, and it's kind of like why generalists will win in the future. And to your point of context, like I wonder if being able to dig deep enough, but then tie those different quadrants
Yeah.
and stuff together is also still valuable.
I'm not saying it's not invaluable. I think if you're too much of a generalist, just generally,
Yeah.
you're good at a lot of things, and I don't think there's going to be if you're good at a lot of things and you're wanting to go somewhere in life and
Yeah.
stuff like that,
Yeah.
you know,
It's gonna be hard.
It's going to be harder because
Or you got to start a company.
what's that?
Or you got to start a company.
Yeah, exactly. So I think what you're saying, would probably resonate with me is that you still have to have enough generalist knowledge to connect the dots. You can't not be. I was chatting to a leader the other day, and I was just saying to her, leaders have got to take time, and entrepreneurs. In fact, every individual needs to take time to think deeply about what my contribution is going to be in the future. What will AI not we call zap? I don't know in the States, but we'll refer to things being zapped in South Africa. What won't in your business be zapped? What are the problems if you have to really start thinking about it and thinking about it intelligently? Is like think about what are the problems that your current clients, what are they going to have in 5 years' time?
Sure.
So, good way to think about that. If I'm talking to a client, I say to them, okay, tell me, who are your clients in 5 years' time? What's the demographic? Help me understand that. Now, that's level one thinking, and that would be, I think a lot of people are just doing that piece of exploration. My clients are X, Y, and Z. I'm saying, okay, now.
If you were talking to Harley a while back, they'd be like, oh, no, anyway.
And then the next question I ask them is, say, okay, if these are your clients and their demographics, and you put it clear on that, that's great. And you're now sort of catering to their needs and providing to their needs, and you kind of
Starting to think about who they're gonna
strategizing
be,
and
yeah.
exactly, and you etc. But now I want you to think about this. So take it a step further. So if your clients' demographics are this in 5 years' time, then what is shaping their life? What are the things that are shaping their life? What is influencing them? What's impacting them? Because you've got to be able to contextually think like that and then start to backward engineer and re-engineer to say, okay, if these things and AI is such a significant impact on their life and the likes of whatever, whether it's digital assets or whether it's,
Digital currencies.
digital currencies or trade tariffs or what, and some that we don't even know. Okay, so now what are you trying to solve for them? Because you've got to have that leap ahead to be able to then backward re-engineer and then start to design products and services for that lens. So it's not for me, it's not enough just to say my clients are X, Y, and Z. You have to start understanding, well, what are the things that are impacting them significantly in 5 years' time? Because that's, if you can set yourself up for that, and it's not even 5 years, like I said, artificial
Yeah, I think 3 years out is
superintelligence.
probably start moving now.
I honestly believe that even now, if people are not spending time deeply thinking about it and touching and engaging, you can't touch and engage everything, but one or two important of these mega trends and get familiar to really understand how that's shaping industries. It's something to really pay attention to. In 3 years' time, if you're waking up, the train's gone.
You've already
So
missed.
the train's gone.
Yeah.
It's like now. You got to be engaging now.
I wanted to zoom back to let's just talk about like maybe we've been talking about what you're doing at the Center of Liberation, or is that kind of a little adjacent, or is that specifically a focused organization? If I was a good podcaster, I would have went to your website and snooped it out, read your mission statement and stuff. But I like going in fresh Tell me about that.
Get it straight from the horse's
Yeah,
mouth and said,
exactly,
I like the
exactly.
way I like you the way
I
you
don't want to
roll.
corrupt my conversation with prior knowledge. Come on.
No, no. So, center of liberation is what I believe firmly it is around liberating very much heart-led, heart-centered organizations, leaders into the new era with very practical delivery.
Okay.
So this is not about just all woo-woo and all
This is kind of those conscious people.
conscious. Yeah,
If you're one of those conscious and increasingly conscious people and you're
you're
leading
wanting
people,
you're wanting something different. You have a sense that things need to change. You have a sense that you would like things to change in the context of how life has been experienced. And so, what is that sort of new organization, or you leading a team? You're an entrepreneur and you've got a team, and how do you kind of set that up? And heart-led living, heart-based living is one of the subsequent offshoots
principles, if
of
you will.
principles of becoming more conscious, just becoming more open-hearted, becoming like kinder, more generous, more cooperative, more synchronistic, more expansive, not just for one but for the all. So I think for people that resonate with this sort of concept of tired of competition, tired of the individualism, tired of the separation and the fear, and how do we create ecosystems? You're seeing ecosystems pop up all over the place, but how do you really create ecosystems where most benefit and not just one or a few?
Yeah, yeah.
And then how do you really set yourself? So center of liberation is liberating the next era of, or not even the era because it's now, but it's the next category of leadership and the next category of businesses. And how do you set your businesses up to remain fruitful, expansive, profitable, importantly, and not just for you, but for your staff, your employees, your business, because things have changed so quickly. And where do those profitability pools sit? Whilst doing it at a conscious level, whilst bringing in more creativity, how do you unlock creativity? How do you actually become a leadership team who is ready to be leading edge to create your realities at the executive table, and very much liberate, prosperity and abundance, which sits at the heart of, for me, with something like AI, human beings will be confronted with their value.
Yeah. Is it going to make us richer, happier, and better connected, or is it going to separate us further?
Yeah, and I think
There's an opportunity for the former, for sure.
100%. And I think the biggest human travesty is that so many people undervalue themselves and their skills and their abilities and don't know how to monetize it, or if I lose my job, or if it's this. And so this
Yeah,
this
kind of a
process of
fear-based,
very
scarcity-based.
fear based, and so and that's just rubbish. It's like, but at the same time, you will never be wealthy, prosperous, abundance if you bought into the scarcity and the fear, and the
Yeah.
separation. Because if
Interesting.
you're not wealthy within, you cannot hold the next level of wealth that's coming in whatever way, shape, or form. And so,
So I guess this is kind of you escape from corporate banking realm and you're starting a movement, if you will, and this is a training center grounds consultancy for that movement. Is that the right way to understand it?
there's a movement on the cards, and I've got some exciting prospects coming
Okay.
through probably in the new year or towards the end of the year, which I won't share just yet, but it's very, very exciting to do with the wealth transfer, the women's wealth transfer, and the various
Yeah,
wealth
I wrote that
transfers that
down to
are
talk about.
coming through.
Talk about the
And
women's wealth transfer. That's kind of because the world has changed and the boomers are gonna die and their living kids are ladies. Is that kind of what's going on, or what are we talking about here? Or just the fact that women are earning so much and being college graduates and
yeah,
all
so
that so much more?
yeah, changing lands. Think about it like this, and I heard a great analogy, and unfortunately I can't remember the person, so this is not originally from me, and I'm going to try and summarize as best I can. But think about it like a bird, and just like a bird has got two wings, and when it's functioning beautifully, the wings are both working and balancing the bird, and
Yeah,
flapping,
it just
etc.
works what it's supposed to.
At the moment, and I don't. It's not about being man or woman. I talk masculine and feminine energies. So energetically, the masculine is so the left wing is very well established, logical, left brain, analytical, that sort of masculine sort of containers and structures and infrastructure and those kind of things is like the masculine energy. The feminine energy, the wisdom energy, the intuitive energy, the downloads, the intuits, the nudges, the synchronistic, that's not well developed. So the bird is flying, but it's flying with an underdeveloped right wing. And so if you think about it, all that's happening now is an equalization of the wings so it can fly better. And that's humanity, that there's an equalization of the masculine and feminine energy. So one of the things, the natural evolutions is obviously with a lot more women getting to different levels in organizations and different levels of education and all of that kind of stuff, there will be a 30 trillion wealth transfer over the next decade. It's already started, but it's small numbers.
Sure.
So $30 trillion heading into the hands of women. So for the first time in human history, women's will, not all women, because there's a lot to this. I'm giving the cliff notes, but women have the opportunity to hold more personal income than males in some instances. Then there is another wealth transfer because baby boomers are passing, and so where does that inheritance go? To obviously their kids and that kind of stuff.
They're living kids,
and then you're looking at
ladies live longer, tend to.
Millennials as well, who just they passed the stage now of paying off debt, or some of them are still paying off homes, but education, so they're coming into more wealth. So, but this women's wealth transfer is a really big deal because when there's more power, when there's more money for someone, there's a reshaping of the power structures. And it doesn't have to be negative. It's not about something negative and conflictual and whatever. It just means that
you don't have to beat the men down.
You don't have to beat. This is not about beating men.
Good.
It's just that women make decisions differently. We operate differently. So the way that our spending habits are different. Where we spend is different. What we think about is different. And so there will be certain industries that benefit more than others. So, for example, health industries, women are super, not to say that men aren't, but like there's just a lot of beneficiaries in the health industry. For example, the financial industry will benefit significantly. You'll have more women sort of taking ownership of how financial decisions are made, where typically, like, it's just been left to the male to like figure things out. It's just like there's a lot of unconscious biases associated with it. So, coming from South Africa and
my
seeing
wife takes care of all the money.
Good for you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, she spends most of it too.
She
right,
does a good job of both.
Just kidding.
Exactly.
But I don't know. I'm not. Yes, I think that's true that there's definitely more personal income being generated by women, and there's definitely more single households.
Yes.
There's, and I'm not sure that's for the good of humanity necessarily. I almost think of a, without insulting your relationship or anybody else's, like a bird is kind of a man and a woman together, and that's why they fly good. And if you can have those powers and wings relatively equal, but the household still needs a leader, and I think that tends to be better when it's the man. And we can argue about that.
Yeah, we could argue.
But I look at it more of as a whole being when it's united kind of realm. And even if it's a pair of ladies or a pair of men, even for that
100%.
matter, like people are just not good at being alone as a household, especially for years.
Yeah, no, it is about united, and that's why I say it's a masculine and feminine energy. It's the yin and yang, and bringing that together in whatever the actual structure looks like. But bringing those energies, like where are your brilliant strengths, and you just go and do it. And if your wife's doing the finances, I love it. But like that's her natural, and coming together, and so you're going, being able to unify more harmoniously in those dimensions is really
fair.
Really the opportunity.
Well, that's why at Loco here we've been studying for years now this Halos relational intelligence. It's a Brazilian platform that is like DISC but way better, and it really helps different types of thinkers understand and respect one another and kind of relate better and appreciate the differentness.
Definitely.
And that can happen, I think both with masculine and feminine, and also with that details versus ideas and all of that kind of stuff.
Definitely.
One thing about the women's wealth transfer thing is when you look at a list of the world's 50 richest people, it's definitely dominated by men. And when there's women on there, which we have one in Fort Collins here in Pat Stryker, almost always they inherited it or got it in a divorce. There haven't been very many women that created huge wealth over the course of history. And I wonder, is that because of the less competitiveness? Like men want to win by creating the biggest pile of money? Or is it is it just that men have always controlled more of the wealth and so they've had more opportunities to create wealth? I wonder, because some of those men came from no money either, right? A lot of them, even.
I think it's a function, and there's so many different ways. So I'm going to give again just a perspective, but there's many perspectives that would build this story and narrative, and everybody's going to have a different perspective. But if you historically look at it, and I think it was here only in 1974. I think a woman could get a credit card or checkbook. I can't remember the exact stats. I'm not as familiar currently with
Sure.
America's history as I am with South Africa's. But even in South Africa, it's like way back. I don't know. My mom couldn't get she wouldn't be able to get a bond or a mortgage on her own. And so and then if you think about, typically just the bias towards it, say, I look at my parents, how many more opportunities there were like male doctors or, professors, or the system systemically was just set up that
Sure.
generally males got into
I mean,
the
the country
higher
club was
the country
boys
club,
only
the
for a
boys
long
only
time.
club, the golf
Yeah.
clubs, boys only. It was just set up that historically there were just sort of I want to say advantages to being male in the context of what was available, and so
I
that's
wonder how that'll play out. Like, even as women have gathered, I feel like maybe it's good for men to push up against each other and sharpen each other, even out, while in leadership of their households. I don't know. We'll see how that plays out, but I'm not certain it's going to be for the better. Not because men are smarter than women necessarily, but we are less moved by emotion.
yeah, definitely.
And so I think, not to get, like, we've been in a world of propaganda the last, observably for the last several years,
Yeah,
at
yeah.
least starting in 2020, and the malleability of feelings when confronted with propaganda makes me fear for a world where women actually control too many of the the resources in the companies and the households. I don't know, especially if there's a government full of no goodniks, which seems like most of them are, at least to some
Yeah,
extent.
and I think it's just integration. How does one get the natural integration of energies, of dynamics, of decision making, and have that integrated? You talk about unity, like that integrated whole, right?
Yeah.
That considers the all, and that's not to say that it's just women or it's just men. The world's going to operate best when these worlds are integrated, when
I
they're
was just
brought
thinking about
together.
like a AI that's made for marriage counseling, and that like my wife could talk to, after she was annoyed with me because I, drank too much and snored and kept her awake half the
I
night or
love that.
something like that, and like that she could talk to that AI and it could talk to us, and we could be like, well, hey Kurt, maybe you should, take Jill for lunch on Wednesday because she doesn't have anything going on that day, and she would really appreciate a little surprise date
Well, you can
or
go.
whatever, right? Or
Absolutely. I mean, you can. You don't even have to. It's not even. Virtual assistants are. So you can have it in your car, giving you a bit of a counselling session as you're
sure,
going on your
sure.
next drive, and it will give. I'm sure give you a lot of.
But AI would struggle with context.
It struggles with context. It's
Right.
only ever going to be. I think I just keep saying to people, it's only a tool. It's only a tool. The original inception, the original idea is the way that you prompt it, the way that you engage
Right.
with it is so.
Well, and a really good therapist or counselor has been through some stuff, or at least they can actually empathize, not just like read a bunch of books about empathy.
100%. Like you and I are sitting here together, we can see each other. Where there's body language, there's movement, there's
Yeah.
there's an intuiting, there's a sense making, you witnessing, and AI is just never gonna do that. It's never
Yeah.
gonna
Interesting.
Uh,
So, what would you like to see develop out of the Center of Liberation?
So definitely just a more, I'll call it a more conscious movement in the orientation of business and leadership. And how do we move forward into a world that is generally more caring, and more like enhancing and uplifting. I think it always surprised me, and sustainability. When I say sustainability, before I go on to what surprised me, there's many things that surprised me, but you know, I think the sustainability. People are so fearful, and around their well-being, their finances. Will they be all right? Like, I think there's such a fear around like not having, and so creating opportunities where businesses continue to thrive. Like, don't get scared. This is not about don't collapse, don't give up, don't shut down. But you have to be on top of what now adds value and continues to create value, and that's going to be a figuring out for all of us. So really, Sense of Liberation is about supporting entrepreneurs or supporting businesses to make sense of the current world, and then to reinvent and to be comfortable to continuously reinvent, to be creating value for others, and just staying on top of it. And I think, one of the things that would surprise me when I was sitting around the leadership tables and executive tables is I always found it surprising that we would always be hitting numbers and targets and plenty of billions of dollars, revenue or profit. And at nearly the end of every conversation or after the financial feedback was like, okay, but now we've got headwinds. And so where are we going to cut costs, and who are we going to cut, and where can we, and there's
Right,
always
it's
this
still a
conversation of
scarcity
on
mindset.
the one hand, you'd but then right in the next sentence, it's like, where do we cut? And there's not enough, and like it's headwinds, and it's, those worlds don't come together. And so, that people can actually just thrive and to dismantle the scarcity and be proactive in terms of sustainability, sustaining your businesses, sustaining your profitability pools, thinking smartly and cleverly to be able to set up, have more time. I want to say with more ease. There's just so much constriction and fear and rushing and busy and hustling and
Yeah, the American experience especially. I don't know if
oh no, Johannesburg full on
also the same.
all night, you emailing, getting up early. It's just whew.
So steady hustle.
Whew.
Yeah.
So Center of Liberation is just liberating more freedom and ease in the way that we do business, sustainability, and supporting individuals, small businesses, leadership teams to grow, be less fearful, and to really make sense of what's happening and how they set themselves
And is
up.
this a solo practice right now? And do you have imaginations of adding more people to it, or is there more of you out there in the center? Is it a digital center with multiple people in there?
It will become more digital, and like I say, I've got a couple of great prospects on the horizon to expand it quite significantly.
Okay.
And so really hoping to have
And kind of a bit of a formalized offering, kind of. As
yeah,
well,
I mean,
under
I'm
works,
working
if you will.
with individuals and clients still in South Africa and across the globe, leaders and stuff like that. So I've got always looking to expand, and especially since I've arrived here and sort of really incepted the business. So it's been going for the last year and a half since I arrived
Yeah.
here. But definitely, I've got plans to expand it and to bring more people on, and then to create more of both figuratively and literally a center where we will work in different realms and with different levels of, let's say, leadership development, leadership capability. I run various courses and programs.
In-person boot
in
camps, different
person,
things.
yeah, and just online as well. But they're mostly I do a lot of strategy work for both entrepreneurs and businesses and leaders, and then bring in and blend in. Well, how do you move the culture? How do you evolve the culture in order to make sure that you're marrying up those worlds to deliver value.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to call a quick break.
Yes.
And then we will come back and talk more about South Africa, where you've been,
Yeah,
and some of your
fantastic.
life journey.
Amazing.
All right.
Hi, this is Clint Jasperson, Managing Partner at Purpose Driven Wealth. We believe financial clarity leads to a life of contentment and purpose. Our mission is to guide clients through the complexities of wealth management, retirement planning, and legacy using a values-driven, stewardship-based approach focused on provision, contentment, and enjoyment. With more than a century of expertise through Thrivent, we offer tailored strategies to help individuals and families achieve their goals and embrace generosity. Whether you're navigating a life or business transition or planning for the future, We're here to partner with you every step of the way. To learn more about purpose-driven wealth, call 970-330-7411.
And we're back. So, how'd you enjoy that bathroom break?
So good. I mean, your bathroom is fucking amazing.
Thank you. It's
Let me
pretty
tell
clean, you know.
That's
I
a
try
great,
to,
especially the way that flashes.
Well, the handle
backwards.
fell off the other day, and when I put it back together, I couldn't figure out how to make the flusher go right, but I figured out how to make it go backwards. So I was like, well, good
Well,
enough
there
now.
you go. You see, I mean,
And most people figure it out. We haven't even had any questions.
no, it's like, okay, well, this way is not working. There's got to be another way.
Yeah.
You need you need to
Perfect.
put a little
Yeah.
signpost there. You know, when you come into a door, it says push or pull. Just
In Arches National Park, there's a sign in the restrooms there that says like, number 1, sit on the toilet to use. Which I read this sign while I was standing in front of the toilet because that's where the sign is, and then do not stand on the toilet. Use the toilet, not the floor. It was all these like dumb rules. Anyway, I digress.
Yeah, I thought it was one of those. Okay, this is one of those trick things, and he's deliberately let me go first because now he's enjoying like me trying to figure out how to flush.
Yeah, Ava and I'll watch the footage later. It's really fun. Just kidding. No footage in there. So one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is because like I've been interested in South Africa for a long
Yes.
time, and I mentioned when we had coffee that my brother actually employs 3
Yes.
young men from South Africa on his farm, or my dad and brother do, I guess. And so you're not probably as old as I am, but you're getting up there. So
think we're
take me back to
close.
your earliest days of your 50 several in South Africa. Like, what was your family environment? What was? Do you have siblings? What were your
Yeah.
parents doing for work? Like, take me to first grade or your equivalent. And,
Wow, I love it. Yeah, if it would be first grade. So we go to back then. We went to school at 6, and
6 years old. Okay.
6 years old now. I think kids are going. You get preschool. I don't know what it is here, but it's like 3 or 4 people already sending their kids to some kind of
some
schooling.
kind of organized
So
activities.
yeah, thank you so much, and the real trip down memory lane. So great to dabble into the space. Parents, teachers. Dad was a headmaster. They're both
Okay.
still alive. They live in a
Headmaster, so like a private school setting?
private school.
Okay.
Well, back out, our education system changed quite a lot once Mandela was released. So,
Okay.
so it was public school, and public schooling back then was really like private schooling. So he was a headmaster at a school,
Okay.
and mom was a teacher, primary school teacher.
Okay.
And my early days, it was really interesting. I mean,
Just you, no siblings?
2 older sisters. They
Okay.
both live in Australia. Very
All right.
common for South Africans to
Is it?
to
They talk kind of funny over there too, so it's easier.
yeah, well, and to leave. So it's but Australia's got a lot of South Africans.
Oh,
Lot
I wouldn't have known that.
Yeah,
Okay.
lots and lots of.
So your
South
siblings have moved on to.
So my siblings live
Australia.
there. My eldest sister's been there for maybe 30 years. My middle sister, I'm the youngest of 3, probably about 10 or 12 years.
Okay.
So, yeah. So my 3 sisters. I was the youngest one.
You were in Johannesburg, which
in
is
Johannesburg.
a big city already back then, I guess. Or how big a city is it?
So, Johannesburg, South African I think can fit in California. I'll just say that. America is like huge.
Right.
I strongly recommend for anybody.
Yep.
It's an adventure. Number one, just go to South Africa, but secondly, move countries. It's a significant, transformative experience. But Johannesburg is probably, it's probably like a Denver,
Okay.
sort of,
Yeah.
but bigger than Denver.
Over 1 million with the whole thing, but
plenty,
yeah.
well over 1 million people.
Okay.
And so you're looking at, what was like, I just remember being sort of super free. I was always on my bicycle or doing
Okay.
something with
So
friends.
kind of
and
free range,
free range
kids in those days.
free range kids, and I was too young to really know too much or understand too much about apartheid. Like I knew of this thing, but it wasn't really super impactful.
Like when you say public school, was it like public school for everybody as long as you're white, kind of?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what it looked like was apartheid was like you would have what we call them house managers, house workers. So similar to you guys clean your house cleaners here.
Sure.
So that was really like my only interaction. We had this house cleaner, and her name was Andrika. Absolutely loved her. She brought me up. My folks were
Yeah,
out teaching,
part of your family
and part of my
virtually.
family, and so that was. It remained super common, but
Yeah, like
it
in-
wasn't. You didn't. There were no black people. The first black person to come into our school, my high school, I was 13 or 14. But I didn't really know any different, It was just like, that's just the way it was.
Were they not like mixing on the streets of Johannesburg and stuff and delivering
They
the,
were
the
absolutely.
the stuff to
yeah,
the
yeah,
grocery stores and the
absolutely, but
alleys and whatever?
yeah, but it was just like, it wasn't a big presence. And those days they had to have what they called, it's almost like your vaccine booklet, but I can't
Like a
remember.
pass,
A
almost,
pass,
of
yeah.
sorts?
So they had to live in certain areas, and
Oh,
we
to
had
kind of be
like
in the white man areas, you had to
correct.
Kind of,
So there was a lot of segregation like that, which again I didn't understand as a kid, and so they weren't when I was in primary school, and like I say, only in my second year at high school did we have our first black person coming in, and then when Mandela came out, got released from prison, obviously so much changed. So the whole system.
Did he get
changed.
swept into power almost immediately, or the
Almost
release from
immediately.
prison was almost an acknowledgement that things are going to change now? Or
Yeah, and I mean that was very.
And when
it's
was
been
this?
in, been in.
I remember
in,
it, but-
Yeah, 94 he was actually released, but there was a significant build-up. So
Sure.
the tensions in the country prior to his release were like significant. Obviously, the uprisings and sort of really wanting a sense of freedom. His release, but black people wanting a sense of freedom and just for things to change.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
the government was changing, and so there was a lot of which wasn't very public. Now, again, going back then in 94, I was when he was actually released, but the build-up, I was going through 16, 17, 18
Sure,
years
okay.
old, so I was understanding it, but it was a lot to try and comprehend what was
Sure.
actually going on. But there was a lot of tension. There was a lot of, like, conflict. There was big concern about civil war. And, I remember my younger years, like I said, was playing on the road, riding my bike, being amongst people. But there's always this, like, be careful, be careful. There was a lot of anger in the system, and understandably. And over the years, there were just more bars and more walls being put up and more security being put up and more concern for one's
safety, especially
and
for, like,
the
a lady,
uprising
but-
of anger and frustration, and I can understand that and wanting change. And so just prior to Mandela being released, it had significantly escalated. There was a lot of violence and a lot of
Yeah.
it was
and
uncomfortable.
I remember, I don't know, I wonder if this is accurate, but I remember being really swayed by Mandela's talks and position and values, and even as he tried to make reforms after release and stuff, it was very positive. And then it felt to me as an outsider looking in that he got influenced by power and kind of corrupted by Marxism kind of tendencies and things, and really kind of let it go sideways after not, because he was the ruler of the country after not too
Yeah.
long, right? After that, or maybe
Yeah,
years
he-
later.
No,
But
no.
it felt like he started strong, and then, like a lot of people, when they go to Washington D.C., he turned into a government stooge again that was hooking up the insiders and punishing the outsiders.
Yeah, I think his leadership was, for me, a lot of positives. There was a lot of positives. For me, I feel like the country, unfortunately for me personally, I feel like the leaders subsequent to Mandela.
It was later. He did a good job.
I
but
feel
it
like
was-
he did a great job. His leadership was as far an extent that he could do. Obviously he would have been
hard to
pulled
change a
in
big system. Yeah.
super. There was so much
Like
to
Trump
fix.
in his
It's
first
like
term.
so much to fix. And just to calm the country.
Yeah,
Like he did
yeah.
a phenomenal job just to calm the country, and what he did to prevent, sort of civil war and civil outbreaks, because, black people were super angry. And it's sad because these systems are implemented, and, I'm coming up as a 17, 18, 19-year-old. I had no choice in terms of
Right.
the
yeah.
system. Yet
The
you've got
education
people
that you got versus
so
somebody else.
angry with me personally,
Sure.
and so I feel like there was so much, and this again is only my personal perspective, and I can only give my personal perspective. It's a complex, very complex topic. But there was so much possibility, and I do feel there was a good period of 6, 7, 8 years where it was very upbeat, and even on the, I think on the world stage, it was very promising. And unfortunately, as he got on in years, and I would say, unfortunate for me, the experience of the next level of leaders coming in, that's where a lot of corruption started coming in, and that was noticeable and devastating.
I mean,
devastating for the country.
is the average black person better off now than they were pre-apartheid? Because the economy in South Africa has kind of had a steady decline over the last
it's been tough.
decade or
It's
15
been tough.
years.
I think so much mismanaged funds, and there's so much cultural influence. I think there's we've got like 11 languages. I can't even. I can
Really?
I can speak English, obviously, and I can understand Afrikaans and
Oh, you
speak a
speak
little
English?
bit of. Yeah,
Just
imagine
kidding.
that.
Yeah, tell me what
Ek
Afrikaans sounds like.
Bietjie Afrikaans praat. It's been so long now. I haven't been around Afrikaans for so long. So
And that's like
who
Dutch?
can't? It's a
Like a
bit of a
twist on
mix, yeah, a
Dutch?
bit of a twist on Dutch, and a bit of we've got quite a lot of Dutch influence.
Yeah, I thought so. Okay.
Yeah, ons praat lekker hier in die kamer.
Oh yeah, that
I
definitely
don't-
sounds Dutch kind of in my ear.
And just, I don't have very. I've got more of like a softer English orientated accent, so I can't always get into the.
Yeah,
and the-
fair enough.
So it's very, very multicultural and very strong and steeped, and the different cultures, even amongst the black people, have very different ways
yeah.
of operating. So
I was listening to a podcast about that a while back, actually, and there was like an indigenous tribe. South Africa wasn't very heavily populated when the white people got there.
yeah, no,
There was a
no.
little bit of tribal activity, but it
Yes.
wasn't like the big Congolese tribes and the Zulus and some of the others. But then some of the northern tribes like pushed down, and the founding of the country really kind of solidified when the whites and some of the indigenous blacks pushed back against the tribal blacks
Yes, yeah.
more, which I had no idea that story was part of the founding.
Yeah, so very. I mean, it's rich with story and heritage and history and like just so many different dimensions and facets to it. So, when you ask the question, what do I think are the economy's unfortunately declined. It's just been, I think, just so much unfortunate corruption of funds and misuse of funds. I think when I left, we were sitting with an unemployment rate of about 40%.
40.
Yeah, so
wow.
huge, and it's, and unfortunately, for me, I feel like the black population did not benefit. Small pockets of
Some
of
of them, the
population.
corrupted ones.
Yeah, some of them definitely, and obviously you had we had various systems put in place. So BEE, broad-based Black Economic Empowerment, was a government-driven system. So black people came into organizations, and a lot of effort and money went into obviously education, and because that's at the heart of it is the lack of education.
Yeah, how can you ask somebody to step up and be a leader of a company
so
when they
100%. So for so many years, black people didn't have access to high quality education or no education, and so that takes decades to unwind.
Yeah.
And our education system, for me, we obviously, the school system changed and there were a lot of private schools, but now you still got inequality in the context of like wealth and being able to attend schools. And, you've obviously got people going through universities at different levels. And so definitely, a lot more equalization of blacks coming into companies and then building up and, and
There's been a lot of success stories as well.
a lot of success stories and my colleagues, I just love the stories. Oh my gosh, the stories of some of my plenty of my colleagues were just like, wow.
What you had to go through to get here.
And
you're talking about your colleagues at the bank.
Yeah, my
right?
colleagues
so
at the bank.
People that pushed through.
Yeah, and story after story and after story, and just the spirit of so many things that we would take for granted. Sure, I had to every now and again walk to school and walk up the road and walk down the road, but these guys at young ages, they were walking like miles just to get to school, miles, and no shoes and hardly any lunch, and they would be up on the farms, like farming first, and they had their chores to do, and then
Yeah.
walk miles and miles. But I'm talking like 2 hours to get to school, 2 hours to get back, and then they look after their brothers and
Right,
sisters because
yeah.
their parents had come to Johannesburg.
16-hour days, 7 days a week kind
Like,
of thing.
incredible and incredible stories. So, so much good, like so much good. Like, I mean, the people. It's very real culture. It's very real.
Yeah,
People are very
yeah.
real. Like we've been through a lot as a nation, as a
Yeah,
country,
yeah.
and
Is
then as
there a United
individuals.
Nation feeling?
There can
Is it
definitely
better than,
be.
like, right now in the United States, we're like kind of divided as much as I've seen in a lot of ways between the, Trump's great, Trump's Hitler camps, with a few in betweeners and they're not sure.
Yeah.
But is it that vivid of is there still headbutting between the black communities and the white communities, or is there a lot more relationships than one would think, and they're more for South Africa? Or where is that setting now?
Yeah,
And I know you've
I mean,
been gone now a couple years.
I don't
right?
know. Yeah. So I think obviously I think
And COVID
there's
might have
been
been tougher, right? Because I remember South Africa got kind of thrown under the bus for some stuff
I think we
early
get thrown.
on.
I think we get thrown under the bus.
I don't remember what that was
Yeah,
of context, but I remember they got screwed by the international kind of scene
yeah,
there.
all the variations came from.
Oh, the variants, yeah,
the
because you guys
variants
were
came
like
from-
not vaccinated enough or
we
something.
we sit somewhere in the corner of the world, and the variants come. I think I would say it ebbs and flows, and I would say the majority of people, black, white, Indian, doesn't really matter what color,
Yeah.
want peace. They want
So
a break.
for 80% of people, they don't care.
They
right?
want a
Yeah,
break. They just
yeah.
want good. They want a bit of a break, and they want peace, and they
Yeah.
can things just be better?
Yeah,
Can
yeah.
can things just get better, and can things be better? And we're a country that will very easily get united. So when the chips are down, so in COVID it was,
A lot of unity.
a lot of unity, a lot of sorting out. When things need to get sorted out, you'll see that everyone comes together and sorts it out.
Yeah.
We would sit for for 10 years, and I know there's power outages that can happen here and around the world, and I think there was huge internet outages across the globe yesterday, for example. But South Africa, it's like we're so innovative. We're a nation and a population that is just incredibly innovative, because we would be without electricity for at least sort of 15 years before I left. It started 2 hours, no electricity, then 4 hours, and sometimes 8. So you're constantly figuring things out. No electricity, and
Did people have generators?
you
and
got
stuff?
generators, and so
Yeah.
it brings on different levels of opportunity.
Yeah.
So generators, solar power, inverters. But you're constantly just having to figure things out. There's like potholes, and there's and it's also because our social services aren't paid well. So
Sure.
teachers are paid terribly, and you're just not paid well. So you don't want to do your job, and so I think there's just it's a country of contrast. You can be living in a beautiful home in a middle class suburb, and
Right.
which is we've got a huge middle class, and it's very mixed, black, white.
Right,
You'll go
right.
to a restaurant, it's black, white. India, it's very mixed, very diverse, and it's well mixed,
Integrated, yeah.
integrated, and it's beautiful. It really is beautiful, but you can be in a neighborhood where it's relatively middle class, and you can be a mile down the road, and you can see
Feel not safe.
shacks, and,
Yeah.
like tin
Tin
homes,
roofs and
and
whatever.
it's 2 kilometers, and so it's just this contrast. It's this constant contrast.
What's the climate like in general?
Beautiful.
Just
Beautiful.
like Caribbean, or not Caribbean, but Mediterranean climate kind of?
So
or is it
Johannesburg is probably we don't
like
have
San
snow.
Diego?
Yeah, Cape Town is, I would say, is
Oh,
pretty
more
much.
like San
There's a
Diego.
lot of familiarity, I would say, and I mean, I share this information. I say people have got to go to South. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous.
Yeah, I definitely
country.
have it on my
It's
list of
gorgeous.
places to
I
go.
mean,
Yeah.
it's exquisite. Like Cape Town and those surround the we call it the bush. You guys will call it safaris. Like it's
Sure.
exquisite. Like you just the
Just
land is
untouched
exquisite. You know,
magnificence.
Cape Town is exquisite, exquisite. Hermanus, where my folks live, like beyond exquisite. So San Diego is probably a little bit like Cape Town weather and look and feel, except we've got Cape Town's way more beautiful, but it's that sort of
San Diego's not that pretty, really.
it's got beautiful mountains, deep blue ocean, wine farms, all gorgeous. Johannesburg climate is probably similar to this, but we don't have snow.
Okay.
But super dry.
Yep.
It's not mountainous. It's city. Like it's just hardcore. It's like a mini version of, let's say, LA. Like, but I'm talking mini, so let's get that all in context. Like a tiny little
It's
version
still
of
walkable,
LA.
kinda.
But it's city. It's a hardcore city.
Okay.
And I mean, obviously, I was living in the suburbs
Sure.
of Johannesburg.
Tell me about like your college path
Yeah.
and choosing that, and then kind of like how did you make your way into the banking industry?
This episode is sponsored by Loco Think Tank. Loco Think Tank provides peer collaboration for business owners. We build smart, safe places to help business leaders navigate every stage of the business journey, and we love what we do and who we do it with. Our model features give-back-minded business veterans in the role of Loco facilitators, and we're always looking for abundance-minded individuals to add to our membership, facilitator team, Loco community, or to feature on this podcast. Listeners of this podcast who go on to become members of Loco Think Tank get their 6th month of membership for free. Just mention the Loco Experience podcast on your application. To learn more, visit our website at locothinktank.com. That's LOCO thinktank.com.
Oh, yeah. I love your questions. And I have a very, how do I describe it? I'd say I'm one of those people who is able to make things happen. I'm a make it happen person.
So, you're not a non-player character. You're
so I was
full of player character.
I'm going to experience life to the fullest. And when I go to my deathbed, it's like, nothing, no stones unturned.
Okay.
So highly capable sports person at school. I was a squash player.
Oh, you're a volleyball player too?
No,
Okay.
volleyball.
Well, you mentioned Dana was a volleyball coach or something.
Yeah, but volleyball we played in
not a real
gym,
sport.
It's not in South Africa. Only rugby and cricket are real sports in South Africa.
Okay.
But I played squash, and it's similar to your racquetball here, and was a highly capable player. And so I ended up playing once I left school overseas and had a world ranking. So I played in
You made money playing squash and stuff.
a little bit.
Yeah,
a
a
little
tiny
bit. But it was, after
Spent a lot more money playing squash than you made, but
yeah, but traveled, and I think the experience of being a professional athlete and traveling, and we had just come out of apartheid. I think I was the second player to head out and give it a bash on the world circuit. So I think I got to like 23, and and just reached a point where it's like, okay, do the right thing, go study. So I didn't think I was really capable of much outside of squash, and ended up playing.
So you didn't really come into your own academically until much later.
I was average academically, average, So I did something called human movement science, which I think you guys have got.
Like physical therapy,
or
100%. Physiology-ish.
And did really well once I got into it. Like, I actually loved...
Kinesiology.
Yeah, kinesiology. Well, yes, version
somewhere
of that,
in that
something
realm.
like that.
Yeah.
Human performance. Physical performance. And so spent my time there doing honours and came out of that. And again, I was entrepreneurial, so I opened up. I had ran 2 personal training gyms.
Okay.
I was still playing squash. I played for South Africa, and I was still traveling a bit for squash and that kind of stuff. So, ran the personal training gyms and felt that by the age of 30, I was over the personal training gyms, and I was personal training as well. But I enjoyed running the gyms, but I didn't enjoy the personal training part of it. And just wanted to, I kept having this impulse that corporate was calling my name. Never been in corporate. I had no idea. And this is where I say, like, center of liberation is like this heart-led, because when the heart starts intuiting and pulling and prompting, it wants something. And I'm like, oh, my God, like, I have no idea how I'm getting into corporate. Anyway, long story short, ended up wrapping up the gyms. The universe decided to close them for me. And I moved back to Johannesburg. I was living in a place called Durban then. And got into coaching, so business coaching, life coaching, did a diploma. I studied psychology and got my honors in psychology.
Oh, interesting.
And during that time, I really got involved. My life was actually quite a mess at about 32, 33. I had to have a total hip replacement as a result of squash. I'd had a big breakup, and I was kind of just in this crisis. I think everyone goes through, hit some kind of crisis at
Yeah.
some point, where life was not looking too rosy. So I
Yeah,
moved
yeah.
back to Johannesburg and started a business with my sister, and kind of got into the whole quantum realm, spiritual realm during this crisis, and
Okay.
law of attraction, and understanding how quantum worked, and energy and the force field and all of those kind of things. And started just to practice, like really shifting my mindset and wanted to shift my whole life. I was in debt. I wanted to get out of that. And part of that journey was like I wanted to get into corporate, and just kept having an image of myself, in a boardroom
Interesting.
doing presentations. I had no idea how that image came, but it just kept
Yeah,
happening and kept
yeah.
happening. And needless to say, I think at 36-ish, an opportunity came out of the blue, out of nowhere, to step into banking. And
Like,
like it was just round and round, and like that's why I
Yeah,
say, like, the
yeah.
synchronistic orientation of the universe has plans for you.
yeah,
If you can just
yeah.
follow the
Kind of
plans,
fall into the flow
if you
of
can
it.
just fall into the flow of it and follow it, and it does not make sense at all. Anyway, needless to say, this opportunity, never been in banking, hadn't studied at business school, had done, a lot of in the human development side. I
Yeah,
understood
yeah.
quantum, but I would say manifested this opportunity, and I had an opportunity to step into the top niche bank in the country and on the continent, and spend 5 weeks on a project, which I chose to say yes to. Versus, I think I also had an opportunity to work for a company for a year, and they both came up at the same time. I said, I'm like this. It's RMB, Rand Merchant Bank.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going for the 5 week opportunity, and the 5 week opportunity turned into about 12, 13 years. And
Nice, nice.
yeah, just it was an amazing experience.
When I reflect back on my departure from my own banking career, and I don't think we touched on this even, but I left banking to try to start a restaurant. I wanted to do a locally sourced international fusion kind of restaurant thing
Gorgeous.
that turned into a mobile food truck because I didn't get my locations and things. But I started Local Think Tank kind of along the way, and I've teased that, you know, Local Think Tank was too difficult for God to explain to me in my dreams and my visions, but he could pull me out of banking with like, hey, you should start a restaurant.
Yes,
But his plan was, perhaps still to have me start Local Think Tank, but just how to quite explain that wasn't quite right. So anyway, I digress. I wondered if the heart is deceived, and I was also thinking to myself about, the similarities, if you will, of prayer to manifestation, and manifestation is like a self-powered kind of thing more, but not necessarily, because it requires a universal consciousness kind of element. Is that thing God? I don't know. Anyway, so a few different things I was thinking about when you were talking.
Yeah, well, that's exactly your experience. It's kind of like when you just,
Yeah, I'm
when
supposed to be going this way.
you think you're going this way, and the next thing you're going this way, and the next thing you're in America, and like, how does that
Here
all
we are.
happen? How does that happen? So, and here you are.
Here we
like-
are.
And here we are. Like, could I have really constructed this particular journey just on my own? I
Right.
doubt it. I think there was a little help somewhere, somehow.
Yeah,
and,
however that shape looks like.
exactly.
And what I think I would like to observe is that your career in banking was really in the kind of innovation, change
Yes.
management,
Yes.
imagination of what could be, which banks do poorly. I mean, they change at a snail's pace when they're changing fast. And so I'm imagining that somebody like yourself, even with a blunted environment for growth and change, could really be seen as a key different kind of thinker.
Yes.
And I
yeah.
think I was that
Yes.
I worked for little banks, right? Not big banks, but same kind of thing. They're like,
Yes.
hey, Kurt, we need to rebrand. Like, we need some of your ideas and what we think we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, you're seeing it. Yeah, very fortunate that the bank RMB was very sort of on it, and FNB, in fact, I think, which was part of the same group. known. I think it's in the top 3 of the most innovative banks in the world.
Interesting.
Amazing. I mean, our banking system, everything was on app and that kind of stuff. Like, you guys still said checks. You even have checks. Like,
Yeah.
I'm a star. Like, there was there's so much. Like, I was like,
I drop a check out for rent still every month.
you actually have checks. Like, that's so interesting.
But that's about half my check output is actually my rent check every month that I put in the mailbox here.
So, you have it's like, everything is on the app. Everything is built
interesting.
into the app. So, very innovative and amazing thinkers. Like I say, South Africans and in these sort of environments, world-class
Well, you get
thinking.
scrappy, right? Having a hard time, like I'm from North Dakota, where resources are always not as much as you wish to. It's kind of like that kind of environment you talk. And when you don't have a lot of resources, you get scrappy. And that creates a lot of innovation.
Lots of innovation and moves quickly. And so
Yeah,
I agree, the big structures, corporate structures, that do move slowly. And it was interesting to observe over the time I was there just how the organization evolved and the types of people. Instead of, let's say employing your traditional sort of CAs and accountants, were bringing in like engineers and just like real different, which was important to really start
to try
thinking
to
differently and to
develop understanding.
and then, we did a lot of things really well. And so, like I say, sort of getting into an understanding, what is this crypto land and why do people want it, and etc. And so just staying present with the times.
Were you focused on internal stuff, like your banking teams and your bankers and stuff around that, or were you working with clients in, this company and that company and helping them understand strategy plans and different whatever?
I was involved for much of my career with the internal transformation, building strategies,
Kind of change
working
management
with
strategy, all that.
leaders, building strategies, mergers. We had a few big mergers, and I was very involved in the merger of our foreign exchange business units and sitting with the executive team and leading all of that. And then the last couple of years, I spent more time with some clients as I was involved in. I moved into an ecosystem and partnership division, which was the capability overall was all around innovation and ventures and new innovations. And so I was working in
sharing some of your leading edge
with the projects
thought
of like
stuff.
metaverse and what that meant and how clients could use metaverse. And so I was contributing to some of the strategies then of external clients as we were looking to support them with these.
Who are your customers in the future and all
Yeah,
that kind of stuff.
who are the customers of how do you support them? And there's just various industries. So I was pretty involved in those sort of things and looking at new ventures and bringing in, again, the bank even creating its own ecosystem and where were the gaps. And so it was super exciting. It was very challenging, super exciting.
Yeah.
And
You seem like a person comfortable with like zoomed up to 30,000 feet or even 100,000 feet, but also like pulling weeds in the garden.
100%. I think I'm one of those people, and I don't know how that's come. I think just life experience. I don't know how that, like, I can zoom out very quick, get a big picture, and then I would like, okay, let's bring this down to.
I think it's probably I think your nature is that zoom upper, but all of your experience in professional athletics is like, that's right there. You got to touch it.
I'm not just a dreamer. I have to, like, we have in South Africa, we've got something called Comrades, which is a 56 mile. It's a 90-kilometer ultra marathon that you run in one day, or you've got like 10 or 11 hours to run it. And I said I had a hip replacement but I did 4 of those after my hip replacement.
Oh gosh.
And that thing is like, oh my gosh. So it's like I'm a very physically orientated, practical person, but I know and sense what's coming or what's here and how to like move. And then all of that says, you just got to stretch beyond your edges, into your edges to discover more of who you are. And I mentioned that I'm a person who, when I go to the grave, I'm not, I want to know what stones do I need to unturn, and then take people there. People are. I love taking people to new places and to their, not in a painful way, but like get beyond, because Comrades was a great teacher for me of like, oh boy, you're gonna get beyond yourself.
You got to stretch that boundary,
You're stretching beyond anything mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and in the whole build up to training for something like that, and then actually on the day of running it, you transcend in ways you just can't even imagine.
I've got a friend that's running the running his second 200-mile race.
Oh my God,
in
like
June.
that's no.
And I'm like, dude, why do you
What?
like? You've got a
No.
family, you got a wife that loves
He
you. Like,
does?
why?
No,
Oh
I'm
yeah,
surprised.
yeah. Oh, it's, anyway,
Yeah, wow, that's
I
wild.
digress. He's actually like a financial planner, like a good one, but he just like makes himself
200
do.
miles.
Yeah, and it took him. I think he told me it took him like 3 months to recover from the last one.
Yeah, no, it's
like-
I mean, I'm talking like 56 miles, and that took me, whew.
Yeah, a solid month to recover from that. Yeah. Well, God bless you all that do hard things. Are you ready? Oh, actually, before we get there, let's talk about, because you're kind of a futurist and trends. We always, like, I don't know how many kids listen to my podcast, but I do want to inspire
Yeah.
the future entrepreneurs of the world and the future, like, people, the people that aren't non-player characters, like all the
beautiful.
movers, all the prime movers and the movers out there that are not prime, but secondary prime. Like, with all the evolution of education, of like, especially for that 16, 18-year-old, where do they set their pointer? What do,
Yeah.
aside from learning about AI, like, where should they get a university education?
Such a great question. And I'll be honest with you, I don't actually have the answer. And why do I say that? Because I think the careers of the future haven't even been thought about yet. So I think it's, for me, I would definitely be keeping
Just
the,
travel Europe and South Africa for a
travel,
couple of years,
go
let
and
things settle
travel a
down
bit.
a little bit and see where it goes.
I just think there's huge opportunity. I would be, number one, I would be following, again, I said at some point in this conversation, follow the smart money. Like, what's the smart money doing? Who are the investors now, and who are the investors of the future, and what are they investing in? And if you're really wanting to kind of set yourself up, like, just go and explore and experiment with those things. So keep your finger on the pulse of those sort of things. I think it really depends. I think I talk about paradigms and timelines opening up. So I think there's going to be various opportunities to move in the direction that you really brings you most joy. I think there's a big movement into the space of like, enjoy what you do. What I would say
And
is
figuring out what you enjoy.
figuring out what you enjoy. What I would say is, if you, sorry to all the parents out there, what my sense would be like, when your parents are saying, go and do this, be a doctor, and you really don't want to because you want to do something else, don't waste your time and go and be a doctor, because you're going to end up coming
your
back
heart's
to.
going to pull you into journalism or whatever. Anyway.
Exactly. It's going to pull you back anyway. So rather save some money, time, and energy. And just, if you can follow your path, number
If you
one.
don't feel a pull,
If you don't feel a pull,
hold steady.
follow the path of least resistance. Don't make life difficult. If you do not enjoy something, don't do it. What do you prefer? And what lights you up energetically and from the inside, and go and pursue that. You're generally going to have a much happier life experience than spending 20 years in a direction you don't want to be and then changing anyway.
I like it. Are you ready for a game?
Go for it.
Okay.
I'm curious.
We've got 30 numbered ping pong balls, each attached to either a sophisticated business question or something very silly.
Awesome.
Pull out 3.
Okay, and before I pull out 3, one more comment on the
Please.
the
kids?
for the kids, right? Create value. In whatever you do, the best opportunity, if you're creating value and you're solving problems for people, you're doing so good, and so just get really good at that and look for opportunities to create value.
Yeah, I love it. That's great.
So I get to pull out 3.
3 balls, yes.
It's orange and white.
And they're each attached to a question on my little
Okay.
sheet here.
I'm going to close my eyes for the
Please,
first one.
yeah, that's great. All right. What number?
20. Is that right? Yeah.
20?
20.
What's your go-to excuse when you want to get out of plans?
Oh my goodness, that's so good. What is my go-to excuse when I want to get out of?
Not that you would do such a thing.
When I want to, I can be.
Like if Dana wants to actually go to a movie, but you've got a headache.
No, it's not headache. I got so much work to do.
What's that?
I got so much work.
So much work to do. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Even if you don't actually
Even
plan to
though-
work on that work.
Exactly. Yeah. So
I'm so overwhelmed that I actually need to just chill.
exactly. I just got to sit on the couch.
Right.
I just got to
But
sit
the
and
excuse
meditate.
is I've got a lot of work to do.
Got a lot of work to do, and I want to meditate.
But actually, I just want to sit and meditate. I like it. Okay. Let's do the second question.
That's a great question. I love that. Okay, let me go with we'll go with 26.
26. This almost seems like it's going to be the same answer. What's your go-to way to unwind after a stressful day? I'm going to say you're going to meditate. But
I'm gonna
I'll still listen for your
say
answer.
okay. My go-to is I have a little beagle dog, so there wasn't a lot that came with me from South Africa, but I brought my little beagle
Oh, okay.
dog,
All right.
and
What's her name? Or his name?
his name is Oliver.
I know her.
And I just, one thing that I really value and I thoroughly love, and I have a very deep appreciation, and I don't think many Americans, maybe you do, so that's not a fair comment, but I'll say you have a very beautiful country. And the fact that you have very few fences, unless it's a picket fence because you're keeping your dog inside, like, cherish it. So I love taking Ollie for a walk and seeing the mountains and
Yeah.
kind of just bumbling around. That's my go-to. Just the opportunity to be in such exquisite nature,
We've got big open spaces.
so close and relatively safe.
Yeah, I love it.
Last
Ball
one.
number
Okay,
3. Yeah,
well,
let's do
go.
it.
Let's go. Let's have another orange one. Number 15.
15. What was either the last thing you Googled or the last meme that you downloaded?
The last thing I chat GBT. Let's go with
Yeah, that works.
Yeah. What did I chat GBT? What was I working on today?
Yeah, that question's already out of date, Ava. We just
Yeah. Oh, I'm preparing for a masterclass, so
Okay.
I have done all the marketing and the things for the opt-in page and whatever. And so the last thing I googled was like, I want to reshape this entire thing to bring in more intuitive, more this, whatever. And so please rewrite the whole thing. And I got it was so well written.
It wasn't Googled, it was chatted.
It was chatted. So
but chat
I
thought you
don't
did a
think I
good
do
job.
too much Google anymore.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah, so it built my not the website, but the opt-in page. Rebuilt it.
Yeah, look at this, make it better.
Exactly.
Boom. I like it.
Yeah.
Okay. The Loco Experience is our final segment. Are you ready?
Beautiful. Let's go.
That is the craziest experience, so Loco Crazy, of your lifetime that you're willing to share.
The craziest experience.
Yeah, any kidnappings or near-death experiences or parachute jumping out of planes or, I don't know, whatever squash professionals get into when they're traveling the world, or I don't know.
Near-death experiences.
You have more than one?
3.
3? You can share them all if you want to. I've got like 5.
There we go.
Yeah, it depends on how close.
Some were more near death than others. But after I had my hip replacement operation, I got pulmonary embolisms, and I didn't know. And so I'd been on.
That's like your lungs,
yes,
right? Where it's
yes. So you get blood clots in your lungs.
Yeah.
And I didn't know, and I felt pain in my chest for about 3 weeks. And I thought, it must just be maybe an infection and whatever. And
I'll just run an ultra marathon. I'll be fine.
Well, I'd started doing the rehab, and so you got to walk around the neighborhood, and you got to start going to gyms. So I was doing all of this, and eventually, probably about, it got really intense, and I started having this tight chest, really, really tight. Couldn't breathe, and I started coughing up blood. At which point, I was like on the phone to my sister. I was like, "You got to come fetch me. You got to come. Like, something's happening. I can't breathe." And she came to fetch me and rushed me to hospital, and they didn't. Yeah, they just. I had pulmonary.
Saved you
after 4 weeks of
wow.
walk, and apparently only 2% of the population survive pulmonary embolisms without exercise. So,
dang.
The guy I was on literally I was like out of body at this point and kind of looking down
because your lungs were all filling up with fluid basically.
I was just down. I couldn't breathe. I was like,
oh dang.
And so they were at oxygen on me and trying to just sort of get me breathing. And I just remember that the doctor at some point after they got me stabilized, he just came in. He was like, big eyes. He was like,
can't believe we saved you.
Are you still here?
Or something.
How are you still here?
Dang.
And then after one of the comrades, I got blood clots again in my leg.
Okay.
And had to go
similar
through
kind of thing.
Similar, except I didn't let myself get to.
Picked up the symptoms
and then
a
I
little
was
bit.
in quite a big car accident, which I have no idea how I walked out with literally.
Tell me the circumstance. Like,
I had a blowout on one of our highways.
Okay.
And I was driving, and it was on the.
You driving the right there?
We drive on the right. No, everything's like I'm on a whole new timeline. So we drive on the right, and
But it's not British.
no,
Or it is British.
It is, yeah,
Yeah, I guess
yeah,
it is. I thought it was just
Commonwealth.
British colonies are
Yeah,
mainly the
yeah,
only ones that do
yeah.
it, right? The Commonwealths.
So I had to redo my driver's license. I had to the written and the
Right.
whatever. I've never been so nervous. The pressure of like doing my driver's
Driving on the
license,
left, yeah.
the written one, let alone that. At the age of 51 or whatever, it was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm doing this again. However, and
So you drive and you had a blowout on your tire?
yeah, I have a blowout in the tire and driving on a highway, and like you guys have barricades in between, and
Sure.
hit the barricade and sort of spun all over the place. And,
Whoa.
and literally, I mean, the car was squashed, and I was driving, so the driver's side was like
Oh,
hit,
dang.
like the car was half, and
Oh, dang.
and I
Just
still
you?
like.
You didn't bounce off of other cars or anything?
No,
Just,
fortunately.
you and the guardrail played a little
Me
too
and the
tight?
guardrail, and it would happen so quick, because just next to the curve there was a bit of grass, and then the barrier, and so I had the blowout,
Oh,
got
dang.
a fright, probably going at 60, 70 miles, got a fright, then went off the.
Didn't flip over,
tar.
just like spun?
We
almost?
should have, but the other tire blew, and then as we hit the.
You were with
I
somebody?
I had someone in the car with me. The tires, because there was no tread, they kind of
Oh, yeah, they
grinded
couldn't.
into-
Yeah, they're just
and
sliding
that-
instead of flipping you over the
and so
guardrail kind of thing. almost.
so
All right,
yeah,
well,
yeah.
little
So
blessing.
yeah, so I'm very blessed to be here. I'm very grateful, and
I think you got at least 3 more near deaths than you.
I'm done.
You're young yet.
I'm done. I'm done. The pulmonary
No
embolisms
more,
was
please.
like, okay, I think I'm.
It's been like 10 years for
I
me
kind of
since
like
I've had one.
breathing easily. It's kind of fun.
Yeah,
and,
Fair. Do you have any questions for me as we wrap this up?
Well, there you go. What's the craziest thing that you haven't shared with your audience yet about you?
About me?
Yeah. Near-death experiences.
Well, I've
jumping
shared a
out of-
few stories. I don't know if I've ever shared that. I was 5'1" at the end of my sophomore year of high school, so I was super short. I was 5 foot at the beginning of my 7th grade year, so I basically didn't grow from 7th grade to 10th grade.
Oh my gosh.
And then all of a sudden shot up. And I was a good basketball player, but unfortunately I was super short, so like it didn't work out that way. So yeah, that experience of kind of, and I was kind of depressed at that time because I was like smart and stuff, and I, whatever, people liked me and stuff, but like knowing that I was probably my dad was 6'4", and knowing that I was going to be this like shorty and kind of
Wow.
accepting that, but not really. I was pretty depressed about it. And then all of a sudden I started getting tall, and I was like, well, now I'm this,
You made up for
6'2" and 130 pounds or
You made
whatever,
up for
at
it.
that time. So it was also awkward growing, but yeah, it was a humbling thing. Like, I don't know how to quite explain it. Like, for all you shorties out there, there's no shame in that, and I'm glad you're there too. But I don't know, for whatever reason, I had come to accept this fact that even though I had a really tall dad and a normal sized mom, I was going to be like this short little guy all my life. And then I
Wow.
started growing. Like by the time I confronted the issue, then I started growing. So that was definitely a fascinating time
And
for me in a
yeah.
real small school, 50-person high school. So it was, I was Kurt the Squirt and was definitely bullied heavily more than most everybody else.
Wow, I'm astounded, and I mean, I that would just
Didn't
not
think I
even,
would be a victim of bullyhood.
no, and it wouldn't even feature that you were ever short. So I'm like, okay, well,
Fair.
that's amazing.
Yeah, so I guess it wasn't
Wow,
an
so you're a
experience,
bully,
wasn't a
yeah.
near-death. I've shared a lot of my near-death experiences on here already, so I didn't want to duplicate one
Yeah,
of those
yeah,
by
yeah.
accident. But yeah, that
love
was an
that.
experience for sure.
Wow. Yeah.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah. Sure. Well, thanks for sharing.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah,
If people
so
want to find
enjoyed
you,
it.
they just look you up on LinkedIn. Is
Yeah,
that the best way?
LinkedIn. Just look me up there, and I'm a little bit on Facebook. I do quite a few posts there,
Okay.
or you can go to my website, Center of
like
Liberation.
Center of Liberation.
Yeah, Center of Liberation.
So
but,
liberating you from
LinkedIn,
all the annoying, challenging.
get happy, man. I'm just
overcoming.
like, let's just get happy.
Yeah,
Let's-
liberate yourself
let-
from the stress and anxiety.
You want to
of,
make more money. You want to position your business. You want to go to the next level. Go to the edges. Lean into the edges and what's next in
expand
your
your-
life.
expand your
Reinvent
possible.
and do it, quicker and easier than
In a
that's
quantum way.
In a quantum way, then come play in my world.
I like
Would
it.
love it.
Hey, I
Thank
appreciate
you.
you being here, Sean.
So great to be here. I've
Have
loved
a nice
chatting.
afternoon, evening.
Yeah, thank you so much.